Stone Hammer Kingdom. Krage stepped into his forge, the familiar scent of metal and coal doing little to ease the turmoil in his mind. He had retrieved the cold steel he needed, yet he couldn't shake the image of the girl he had left behind. Should I have stayed with her? The thought gnawed at him, more persistent than he wanted to admit. In the past, his life revolved around crafting weapons. Nothing more, nothing less. But now something had changed. He wasn't sure if it was instinct or the strange bond of their sudden marriage, but the idea of her in danger left a bitter taste in his mouth. He didn't want anything to happen to her. Not now. Raking a hand through his hair in frustration, Krage muttered to himself, I should finish that sword. Wait. A spark of inspiration lit his expression. I'll forge her a weapon, one worthy of protecting her. A smile crept onto his face. If he couldn't be by her side all the time, then at the very least, she'd have a weapon strong enough to defend herself. A blade forged from the heavenly, or he had reserved for something special. Just as he was about to begin, a voice bellowed through the shop. Krage, shouted Baldswin, striding in with his usual bluster. Following close behind him was a breathtakingly beautiful young woman. She was from the wolf tribe, her silver hair cascading to the middle of her back like liquid moonlight. Her sky-blue eyes gleamed with mischief and warmth. With snow-white skin, a flawless figure, and a presence that turned heads, she looked more like a mythical enchantress than a warrior. Hey, Krage. Baldswin smacked him lightly on the back of the head. What are you grinning about like an idiot? Krage scowled. None of your business. I've got something important to take care of. He turned away, eager to begin forging the weapon. Every second he wasted was a second longer his wife remained defenseless. The teleportation marker he had placed on her was useful, but even that wouldn't be enough if danger struck in an instant. With this blade, she might survive long enough for him to reach her. But Baldswin wasn't done. Turn your ass around and look who I brought. Before Krage could protest, Baldswin grabbed his arm and forced him to face the girl. You probably don't know a damn thing outside your forge, but this is Felina, the #1 beauty in Stonehammer. She asked to meet you specifically. Felina stepped forward, her cheeks tinged pink as she extended her hand. I'm Felina. It's an honor to finally meet you. Krage gave her the briefest glance, his expression unreadable. Then, without a word, he turned away and walked deeper into the forge, leaving her and Baldswin behind. Felina blinked, stunned. Baldswin sighed, knowing exactly how this would unfold. Before he could warn her, Felina stomped forward in frustration and barged into the forge. Are you seriously ignoring me? No man has ever done that. I came here for you. I'm offering myself, and you don't even care? What kind of game are you playing? Get out. Krage didn't even look up as he moved to a large safe in the corner. You dare tell me to leave? I won't go unless you agree to marry me. Felina snapped. She had bragged to her friends that she would snare the hottest man in the kingdom. Being rejected, ignored, was unthinkable. Krage carefully pulled a crystalline ore from the safe, admiring its glow. The thought of the joy this weapon might bring to his wife made his lips curl into another rare smile. I said, get out, he repeated, calm but firm. If you don't leave, I'll remove you myself. Felina stomped her foot. Then you'll have to marry me first. Without a word, Krage raised his hand and flicked it backward. A gust of invisible force slammed into Felina like a hurricane. She shot through the forge, across the shop, and crashed straight through the front door. Her flight only ended when she embedded into the stone wall of the building across the street, her body leaving a crater before slumping unconscious. Baldswin groaned and rubbed his temples. God damn it, I knew this would happen. Baldswin released a long, exhausted sigh as he stared at the broken door. Damn it, I just fixed that. He didn't spare a single glance at the unconscious beauty embedded in the wall across the street. Instead, he marched into the forge with a scowl, only for that scowl to vanish the instant he saw what Krage was holding. His eyes nearly bulged from their sockets. Wait. You're actually using that? Krage nodded casually as he prepared the forge. Only this heavenly or is worthy of being made into a weapon for my wife. You're right, if it's for your Baldswin's voice caught. Wife? Wife. Wife. His mind reeled. He's only been gone for a few days. How the hell does Krage have a wife? For years, Baldswin had watched this man reject woman after woman. No, fling them out the door like unwanted scraps. Even the most stunning beauties couldn't melt his cold steel heart. And now, the man who just flung the #1 beauty in the kingdom through a door like she was made of paper, was married? Krage, as calm as ever, gave a simple nod. Yeah, I am. Baldswin froze. Then he staggered, grabbing the nearest workbench for support. Give me a moment to process this. The man who's been called the Virgin Forge God actually got married? He squinted suspiciously. Wait, you didn't marry a guy, did you? No, Krage sighed. She's definitely a woman. Also, do you have to keep repeating the word virgin? Sorry. It's just shocking. Baldswin flailed his arms. So who the hell is this woman? What miracle made the walking iceberg of Stonehammer say yes to marriage? With a reluctant grunt, Krage recounted the events that led to the unexpected union. By the time he finished, Baldswin was doubled over in laughter. Ha ha ha. You got married to a little girl? You really are a lullicon. Oh gods, this is rich. He clutched his stomach, barely able to breathe. The great Krage, Stonehammer's most sought-after bachelor, snagged by a child bride. I have to meet this girl. The legends will write themselves. The Lullicon blacksmith. Krage's frown deepened. Without a word, he reached out and clamped a massive hand around Baldswin's skull. Ow! Fine. I'll fix the damn door. Baldswin howled as Krage's grip tightened. I swear, my head's gonna pop like a melon. Krage released him with a grunt and turned back to his forge, refocusing on the heat. The temperature had to be perfect. This blade would be the first gift he ever made for someone else. Meanwhile, in a realm beyond the mortal world, high above the skies, in a dimension detached from reality, a nine-tailed fox lounged on a lavish purple couch, encircled by flickering violet flames. A bowl of grapes rested before her, and she delicately peeled each one before slipping it into her mouth. On a floating screen in front of her, the image of a certain young girl played out like a drama. You're still watching her? A voice asked. A girl in a sleek black dress entered the room, two elegant black wings folded against her back. The fox murmured. She's far more entertaining than most. Sit, say. You'll enjoy this next part. She just forced a gorgeous man to marry her. Say chuckled as she settled onto a plush cushion beside the couch and reached into the grape bowl. Didn't you give her a blessing? I did. Euthia, the moonfire goddess, smiled as another grape vanished into her mouth. Oh, I may have gone a little overboard, but at least she won't die easily now. Oh look, there it is. She's got to rock up her butt. Ha ha ha. Say rolled her eyes with a fond grin. If she dies, our entertainment dies with her. Immortality is dreadfully boring, you know. Everyone wants to be a god, but they never realize we're left watching mortals for fun. This realm is full of wonders, yet none of them surprise us anymore. She tossed a grape in her mouth and leaned back. What's funniest to me is that church down there. All that hatred for demi-humans. And yet, the god they worship is one herself. Isn't that right, Euthia? Euthia huffed. Their stupidity isn't my problem. If they want to bow to a demi-human while burning villages full of demi-humans, let them. But if they so much as harm the girl I blessed. Her 9 tails flared slightly, flickers of moonfire dancing between them. Then I'll burn their nation off the map. Such passion, Say said with a sly smile. If you're this invested, shall I give the girl a blessing too? Actually, Euthia's eyes twinkled. Why not invite Rylena's while we're at it? The dragon goddess would love this one. Later, Say waved lazily. I just got comfortable. Let's watch her stumble around a bit longer. Both goddesses settled in as the screen continued to play, their laughter echoing softly.
Hey, welcome to Firescale Audiobooks. If you enjoy our audiobooks, please consider subscribing to the channel. Also, feel free to share your review in the comments section below.
3 figures passed through the gates of a large city named Fingalos. Being a city so close to the border, There were many humans as well, and beastkin walking up and down the busy streets. This city was one of the trade hubs for the rural kingdom, with it being geographically positioned between three borders. You need to travel almost a week from each border to reach another city. In comparison, Fingalos was only a few days away. The city streets were filled with large structures made of brick and mortar. Some buildings were so tall they reached almost 5 floors high. To Kana, who walked down the streets, she felt a little nostalgic and also very sick. It reminded her so much of the streets she had to live on for so very long before finally meeting her end on one snowy night. Kana did her best to try to overcome this nervous feeling in her stomach. She stuck close to Seely to the point of almost tripping her. But Seely did not mind. We need to find a clothes shop first so Kana can have proper clothes to wear. It will also be more convenient if she is walking around in her humanoid form. I can't wait to see Kana in a cute dress. Tilia was picking out clothes in her head for Kana to try on. It seemed she wanted to play dress up, and Kana was the doll. I need something easy to move in. Kana spoke up. She didn't want to wear any dresses. Ever since the last rock episode, she had kept her tail much lower than normal. She was afraid one might sneak its way into her most sensitive area once again. She was now traumatized by this event. Kana is right. Something easy to move in is best. We will be traveling a lot, and a dress will not work for her. Seely said as she continued to look around before spotting an armor shop. There. We should be able to find what we need there. Seely pointed at a shop not too far away, and the group headed over. The shop had many wooden dummies lined with sets of metal armor, leather armor, and even a few mage robes. There was even a display of cheap weapons outside. Outside by the steps was a young fox girl, swishing her tail back and forth as she yelled out to the people passing by. Trident Armor has a special going. 10% off on full sets of armor. Only for today. Come get your armor before everything is sold out. The young fox girl even ran up to a man with some stains on his arm and grabbed his arm with a bright smile. Hey, mister, your armor looks like it could use some refurbishing. How about taking advantage of our armor cleaning service? It's only 1 silver coin to get those stains polished right out. The man in the armor blushed and nodded his head. That is a deal. I see you're working hard as always, Califia. Make sure you ask your pa for a raise. If it was so easy to get money out of my pa, I wouldn't be out here yelling at the top of my lungs every day. He always says those who do not work and work hard do not deserve anything. Califia replied, that sounds like your old man. I will make sure to spend 10 silver today, so you can earn a few extra coppers. The man in the armor replied with a jolly laugh. You're the best. Califia yelled out happily as she jumped in the air. Her actions made all the men turn their heads. Mainly because Califia, although looks young, she was actually of marriageable age, extremely cute, and was fully endowed, meaning if she jumped, the whole world bounced along with her. This also would cause many jealous wives and girlfriends to slap the men beside them. Seely and Tilia both looked down at their chest and cupped their own breasts before pouting. One was depressed, while the other was full of hope. I'm still young and have plenty of room to grow. Tilia nodded her head firmly. Seely could only pout without a word as she cursed the unfairness of the goddesses. As for Kana, she was busy watching the swishing fluffy tail in front of her. She reached out with her paw, grabbed hold of it, and pulled. Wait, Kana, what are you doing? Seely only now realized that Kana had found herself behind Califia and was currently rubbing the fluffy tail on her face. What do you want? Califia was confused as to what was going on. All of a sudden, someone pulled her tail, and when she looked to see who it was, it turned out to be a red lizard, and they were currently rubbing her tail all over their face. This is soft and fluffy. Fluff, fluff, Kana mumbled as she rubbed the soft tail on her cheek back and forth. Kana, stop that. You can't just go and do that to someone you don't know. Seely came running over and pulled Kana back. But you won't let me fluff your tail, Seely. Kana protested. That's 'cause you almost bit it off in your sleep. Seely yelled out. Califia, who was listening to their conversation, was hugging her tail with fear in her eyes. Will she bite mine off? A few minutes later, Baha! A big, burly human man with a bald head let out a loud laugh while patting Califia on the head. To think someone would be so brazen to go and fluff someone's tail in public. I kind of lost control when it was swishing back and forth, and before I knew it, I was already fluffing it. Bahaha, I know what you mean. Califia's mother's tail was fluffy too. I was first attracted to her because of her tail. Surprisingly enough, I also did what you did and fluffed her tail in public without her consent. That day I saw stars in more ways than one. She beat me so bad, I was afraid I would never be able to have children. Baha, the big, burly man, wiped the tears from his eyes. Sadly, Califia's mother had passed away, leaving Califia and me. This girl is my pride and joy. If you were a man, I would have killed you without a second thought. Bahaha, it's good that you're not. Sorry, my name's Freshet Trident. What can I help you ladies with? Freshet asked with a big smile on his face. Well, we actually came to get some leather armor for Kana here. Seely replied. Sorry, lass. I do not have anything for beastkin in form. Freshet gave a wry smile. Dad, I will go back out and advertise. Califia yelled as she ran out of the shop. She seemed to want to stay as far away as possible from Kana. All right, be careful. Freshet yelled back before turning and looked at Kana and the rest. You could put in a special order, but it would not be done for quite some time. Oh, sorry. It is not for this form. Do you mind if Kana uses your backroom to change real quick? Seely asked. She realized that Freshet thought that they needed armor for Kana's dragon form. That's fine. Freshet was slightly confused, but agreed anyway. Seely took out Kray's shirt from Kana's bag and handed it to Kana. Go in the back and transform and wear this for now. Okay. Kana took the shirt and walked out back. Not long later, she came back out in her humanoid form. Her little feet could be heard, causing pitter-patter sounds as she ran back out from the back room. I'll be damned. I never thought I would see the day I would meet a beastkin with two forms. Not to mention such a youngin'. Freshet smiled warmly at Kana. Little lady, you will be a real looker when you get older. I am sure all the men will be trying to marry you in a few years. Humph. I already have a husband, and he is very handsome. Kana puffed her cheeks out and showed her ring finger, causing Freshet a shock. What fucking lolicon takes advantage of a little girl? Freshet suddenly yelled out in rage. His whole face turned bright red. You could tell he was truly angry. Freshet, relax. It was not actually the man's fault here. Kana forced the poor guy into a binding ceremony. And to be honest, the one making out in this marriage is Kana, because he was quite handsome. Seely explained, trying to calm Freshet's rage. Oh, the little girl was the one who forced it? Bahaha. I would have loved to have seen the man's face then. Freshet's mood kept changing so fast, making it hard for people to keep up with him. But really though, little lady, I do have one set of armor that would work for you. We normally do not see many beastkin with wings, but I do have this set here. Freshet went behind his counter and took out a wooden box that had a few sets of leather armor in it. They were all the same except in different colors. This armor is very light and is more like everyday clothes than actual armor. Each set consists of shorts and a top with a pair of ankle-high boots. They will also have a special magic on them, like all my beastkin armor does that will grow with the wearer. Feel free to go try it on. Kana looked at the clothes excitedly. The top only covered the chest area, but it was designed this way to allow for wings. And the shorts, although on the short side, still had a button-up slit for her tail. Kana smiled and held the clothes close to her chest, as if they were the most precious treasure in the world. I can really try these on. Go ahead. Freshet smiled and nodded his head. Kana's eyes went wide with excitement, and she quickly ran back out back. Misha, can you go and help Kana get changed? I'm sure she won't be able to do it herself. Seely turned to Tilia and asked. Sure. Tilia answered and ran after Kana. Little lady, I see you got two young ones on your hands, so I must warn you. There have been many kidnappings as of late. I suggest being as careful as possible and keep a good eye on them. Freshet warned. I will. Do you know if they're just targeting beastkin or humans, kids as well? Seely asked. Both. Kids of all ages too. It seems the age range is basically anyone under 15 years of age. A loud bang was heard, and a man in heavy armor came running into the shop. "Freshet! Someone just took off with Califia!" The man in heavy armor yelled out. You could tell he was out of breath with how heavy his breathing was. "What?" Freshet yelled out as he stood up. "All I know was your daughter was doing her normal thing when she suddenly fainted, and a man in a black cloak came out of nowhere and grabbed hold of her. Before we could even do anything, he teleported away. Because of the cloak, we couldn't even see his face. Freshet, I know you tasked me with looking out for her these past few days. I have failed your trust. This is not your fault. If someone was able to use teleportation magic, then there is nothing you can do about it. For now, we need to find out a way to bring my Califia back." Freshet sat down and picked up the picture next to him. His eyes started to water up. "Fei, I messed up, and now our daughter has been kidnapped. Sir Freshet, I wouldn't give up so easily. The kidnappers may still be within the town." Seely tried to bring Freshet back from his despair. "Seely, what is going on?" Kana came back from getting changed, all decked out in her new gear. Although it looked strange for a girl her age to wear a top that only covered her chest, leaving her midsection and back wide open, it was necessary for Kana's wings. Even still, her new clothes looked good on her. Her cuteness was still visible for all to see. "Califia was kidnapped while you were changing," Seely answered. She couldn't think of any way to find the girl. "What? My fluff?" Kana had already recognized Califia as her fluffy friend with the fluffy tail. "Lyserth, can you find her?" "I will try," Lyserth answered. She had figured Kana would ask her this, so she was already stretching her senses as far as she could. "The person who took her teleported away, so we have no clues as to where she is right now." Seely explained the situation. "Kana, I can't sense anything in this section of the city. We'll need to roam around so I can check a wider area." Lyserth hated that she had such a short sensory range now. If it was how she was before she died, she could easily search the whole continent. Let's do what we can." Kana thought for a moment before saying, "Seely will come with me. Misha will stay here with Freshet. We'll be back hopefully with my fluff in tow." "Why?" Seely was confused by Kana's ability to think up such a good plan. She had expected her to scream out something like, "You dare touch my fluff? This sexy body will hunt you down," or at least something along those lines. "Seely, you are speaking your thoughts out loud, and they are very rude," Kana said, frowning. "Do I seem like I am dumb?" "Yeah, okay, I was a little wacky when I first came to this world, but who could blame a little cute dragon?" If anyone could hear Kana's internal monologue at this time, they would more than likely burst out laughing. "I said that out loud." Seely blushed, and she scratched her nose. "I was just joking. Forget it, let's go." "Otil, Misha, hold on to this for me, and don't let anyone else touch it." Kana handed over the long shirt that Kraj gave to her. She knew it stunk and had sweat stains on it, but it was still a present from her handsome husband. She cherished it. "Be careful, you two." Tilia waved her hand at the two, leaving the shop with a forced smile. She did not like being left behind. She hoped they would return and not forget about her. "Kana, do you think we can find her?" Seely asked. "If I can just catch her scent, we should be able to. I will do whatever I can to save her. The big bear man was very nice to us." Kana replied as she ran down the street. She was not running at top speed because she stumbled here and there while getting reaccustomed to only being on two legs again. We can only hope they did not leave the city yet. Let's hope that they are still inside the city. Seely really hoped Califia was okay. She knew with a body like hers, things may end up bad if they did not hurry and find her soon. "Kana, if they really did take her out of the city, I will not be able to find her at all. I know. That is why I am heading toward the most run-down part of the city." Kana was glad one thing about her previous life was coming in handy, and that was that if one wanted to do things like human trafficking, then the best place to do it from was the dark alleys no one walked down. Normally, those kinds of places could only be found in the worst areas. She just hoped her knowledge on this was correct and could be of use. In an unknown location, Califia opened her eyes to find herself bound at the hands and feet. She also found that she was not alone either. There were at least 20 or more kids in the same room with her. They were all squished together. The room itself smelt like urine and feces, and from the looks of some of the kids here, They had been here for a few days. From outside, Califia could hear some men talking. That new one you brought in will be worth some good money. Yes, she will. It is too bad she is not older, or I would buy her myself. One of the men replied. I know what you mean. That girl had a huge rack for her age. They were soft and squishy too. Ah, you sick bastard. Califia's face paled as she covered her chest. First, my tail gets molested and almost bit off. Now, someone actually touched my chest? To top it off, it seems I have been kidnapped. Califia brought her knees to her chest and began crying. Kana and Seely ran all over the city, finally stopping near a fountain, with gloomy expressions on their faces. Kana, wait here. I will go ask inside this pub. Someone might have seen something or knows something. Okay. Kana walked over to a small fountain in the middle of the square and sat down while Seely ran into the pub. She was feeling depressed because both she and Lysereth were coming up with nothing. After hours of searching, even in the slums, they came up empty. They had asked many people on the streets as well, but still nothing. They were feeling very helpless and worried about Califia's safety. Kana placed her hands on the cold cement of the edge of the water fountain and looked up at the sky. I wonder where she is. Oh ho, it seems I found another lonely one. 2 in 1 day is very good. A voice came from behind Kana. Kana, watch out. Lysereth tried to warn Kana, but the man appeared out of thin air and grabbed hold of Kana, and both the man and Kana disappeared as if they were never there in the first place. About 15 minutes later, Seely came back out of the pub, looking around for Kana. But no matter which way she looked, she could find her. Kana! Kana! Seely yelled out. She was even cupping her hands around her mouth to make her voice louder. Girl, you won't find that lass. I saw her disappear into thin air not too long ago, just like all the other kids. An old man with a walking stick said. He was so old his whole body was shaking as he stood there. Seely frowned, but after thinking about it, she figured this might be a good thing. She turned to the old man and smiled as she said, Thank you for letting me know. She then walked off towards the Trident armor shop, feeling much better. She stretched her arms and looked up towards the sky. They sure did kidnap the wrong dragon. The old man she left behind gave Seely a strange look. Wasn't the girl's family kidnapped? Why was she smiling about it? Now she is leisurely walking away like it is no big deal. Huh? Where am I? Kana looked around her, took a sniff, and quickly held her nose. What the hell is that smell? The quick change of locations left her slightly disoriented, but she quickly realized there were many kids around her. This place is... Kana, that Califia girl is in here. Now I know why it was so hard to find her. This entire room is built with Neganite. It can block all forms of magic. But to have so much is truly amazing. Whoever runs this kidnapping ring has a lot of money. Lysereth instantly detected Califia's presence as soon as they entered the room. She's here. Kana smiled and stood up looking around. Califia, are you here? Huh? A set of fox ears poked up as Califia looked around to see who was calling out to her. I'm here. She yelled back. Califia. Fluff, fluff. Kana suddenly appeared in front of her as if appearing out of nowhere and was already rubbing her cheek on Califia's tail. Ah, so soft and cuddly. Who are you? Califia became frantic. My tail is getting molested for the 2nd time today. It's me, Kana. I met you at your armor ship with Seely and Till. Misha, Kana replied, without even stopping her fluffing for even a second. Kana? Huh? Wait, were you not a lizard? Califia was very confused since she did not see Kana's humanoid form. Ah, that was nice. But this place stinks, so we should leave. Kana got her fill of fluff and decided it was time to leave. The smell of the room was amplified for her, and her nose was starting to burn. Lysereth, what is the likelihood of me busting out of this place without any of the kids getting hurt? 100%. With your current stats, due to the goddess blessing, there is no one in this city that is your match. Lysereth replied. Even Lysereth was a little jealous of the so-called boost that Kana received from the Moonfire goddess. If she had as much power as Kana did now, when she was young, she would have started her own country. Since it is 100%, that means I can go wild. Kana smiled and began stretching. When she was done, She took Califia's hand and gave her a bright smile. Don't worry, my fluff. We'll get you back home safely. Califia frowned. She couldn't see the little girl in front of her being able to do anything. She wanted to pull away from Kana, but found that it was impossible to do so. This surprised her, and before she knew it, they were already at the big heavy metal door, the only entrance to the room they were in. Let's see, Kana began swinging her right arm around a bit before drawing it back and thrusting it forward. Boom! Califia's eyes almost popped out of her head. The wall in front of them, that seemed to be so strong no one could damage it, blew into pieces like it was nothing. Whoa! It really broke. Did I use too much strength? Kana looked at her handiwork, just as surprised as Califia was. She never expected she would do so much damage like this. If she had this much strength back in the forest, she would not have needed to run away from that three-eyed hornbear as much as she did. What the fuck? Who are you? Who did this? Kana looked at the man who was looking around for the cause of the destruction and smiled. She placed her hands on her hip, raised her nose to the air, and smugly said, I did it. The man stared blankly at the little girl in front of him before bursting out laughing. Huh, you're a real smartass. Now get out of the way. The man stepped forward, wanting to toss Kana to the side, but when his hand touched her shoulder and tried to push, he felt like he was trying to move a mountain. What? Don't touch me. Kana yelled and pushed the man with all her might. The man went flying, smashing through the wall that covered the rock and dirt on the other side, creating a human-shaped hole in it. The man's screams slowly became faint after a while, as if he was a far distance away. Kana, was it? Califia stared at the destruction and the human-shaped hole in disbelief. Are you a goddess? Goddess. Kana thought for a moment before smiling brightly and crossing her arms across her chest. Why, yes I am. Lying on a couch staring at the screen, a nine-tailed fox girl began choking on the grape she just put in her mouth. Say, who was sitting on the floor, quickly handed her a cup of wine to wash down the grape. Euthia, are you okay? Huh, I thought I was going to die. That little girl is going to be the death of me. This is the 5th time I almost choked or spat out my drink thanks to her antics. Euthia's face was still red from coughing. Well, she's a character. Say chuckled while handing Euthia a napkin. All right, follow this goddess out of here. You can all go back to see your moms and dads. Kana said proudly, fully jumping into this whole goddess role. Lyserth was going to say something at the start, but when she saw the hope being brought back to the little kid's eyes, she decided to let things be. Yes, Goddess Kana. The group of kids all yelled out. Even Califia was looking at Kana with sparkles in her eyes. She couldn't believe a goddess had come down from the heavens to save her. She immediately took up the role of organizing the kids and getting them to follow Kana. She also began spreading tales of Goddess Kana's wondrous deeds. Kana held her nose high, feeling proud about herself even though the tales Califia was telling the kids were all false, faker than Kana's claim of being a goddess. Kana brought the kids with her in tow as she walked down the hall. Lyserth was giving her directions on how to get out of these underground bunker-type places. The walls, floors, and ceilings were all made of stone. Water dripped from small cracks in the stone, making the whole place smell musty. Kana, you are almost there, but there seems to be a large group of people coming this way from outside. I would suggest having the kids hide. Lyserth could sense about 20 people making their way into the underground area. Kana's expression went serious, knowing now was not a time to joke around. Califia, stay here with the kids. I will be right back. Huh, you're leaving us. Califia quickly reached out and grabbed Kana's hand. Kana turned and smiled at Califia and said, Don't worry. I will be back, I promise. The area ahead is filled with kidnappers. I do not want any of you to get hurt or see what is about to happen. So be strong and help me look after kids. Califia looked at Kana with watery eyes. I will do my best to protect them. Kana smiled and took off down the hall, leaving the rest behind. Califia looked at Kana's departing back that was smaller than her own, but yet seemed so reliable. A thought came to her mind as her cheeks blushed slightly. I wonder if Father will allow it. She shook her head and smiled brightly as she turned around to face the kids, all looking at her with confused expressions. Goddess Kana went to take care of the bad guys. We are to wait here for her return. But do not be scared, Goddess Kana said everything will be okay and that she will be back soon. Back in the city, Seely walked into the Trident armor shop, humming away. Freshet saw how happy Seely was and thought that his daughter was found and quickly ran over to her. Where is Califia? Not sure, but I am sure she will be here soon, Seely answered. She was feeling very rest assured that things would be okay. Freshet was confused about what Seely meant, and then looked around for the little girl who left with her. Where is the little lass? She was kidnapped, Seely replied as she sat down on a bench. Her attitude and the words she spoke did not match. Freshet couldn't understand why the girl was so calm when the little lass was kidnapped as well. If she was kidnapped, why are you here? Why do you seem happy about it? Freshet yelled. But suddenly, the ground underfoot began to shake. Feeling the vibration caused Seely to smile as she said, she should be here shortly. Kana walked down the hall and took 3 turns to find a group of men coming towards her. Look, there is one of those brats. How'd she get out? Doesn't matter. Just grab her and let's go. No matter what happened down here, we cannot let any of those rugrats go. They're worth of. Kana snorted when she heard the man yell out. She could easily roast all these men and win instantly, but she decided to test out her new strength. She lowered her little body and charged forward. To the men, it was as if her body had disappeared with how quick she was. Before they knew what was going on, a little girl was standing on the man who yelled out shoulders. You seem unable to capture me, but unfortunately for you, I can capture you easily. The man was horrified. He felt as if a mini Grim Reaper had come out of nowhere and was now standing on his shoulders. Before he could react, Kana stomped down with her right foot as hard as she could, completely ripping the man's shoulder and arm right off, causing the man to release a blood-curdling scream. Kana then leaped forward, somersaulting in the air and landing in front of the man. She reached out and took the sword from his waist with a smile on her face as she said, "Thanks." All the other men were too shocked to even react before they knew what was going on. Their leader was missing an arm and lying on the ground in a pool of his own blood. And standing in front of them was a young girl with a sword in her hand. Next! Fuck! Kill her! Someone finally reacted and charged towards Kana. He swung his sword at Kana's head. Kana just stood there and did not even move as the sword smashed into her cheek. Sparks flew, and the sound of metal against metal could be heard as the sword scrapped across her face. This completely terrified the man, causing him to quickly jump back. Mon, the man started to say. Kana tilted her head to the side and asked, Mon? Monster, run. The man's yell brought all the other men back to their senses, and they quickly turned to run. Some of them had no idea why they were even running, but they still turned to run. The most shocked of them all was Kana, who stood there with a sword in her hand and her mouth wide open. Monster? Me? How can I be a monster? Am I not cute? Kana felt disgruntled by this, causing her cheeks to puff out as she stomped her feet and gave chase. You bastards! Who are you running from and calling a monster? This great goddess Kana will eat you alive. All that could be heard were screams of the word monster as Kana pounced from fleeing man to fleeing man. The sword in her hand, although old and seemed like it would break easily, was like a legendary sword in Kana's hands. Each strike, she sliced someone in half as she passed by them. By the time she got to the last man, she was already at the entrance of the underground area, which led out to the street near a warehouse in the slums. The entrance was heavily covered in foliage, making it hard to spot. Looks like I found the exit. Kana looked around, but did not see anyone. When Lisserith gave the okay that it was clear, Kana went back down into the tunnels back to where Califia was waiting. No, let go of her. A scream could be heard coming from further down the hallway. Ha ha, I will at least bring one of you with me, so that monster cannot attack me. A man yelled out. Kana rushed forward to see a man holding a young girl around 7 years of age in his arms, while Califia looked on in desperation. She felt powerless. Seeing the little girl cry in front of her and knowing that Kana had entrusted the kids to her, Califia somehow mustered up all her courage and charged at the man. Let go of her. Huh, you think you could stop me? The man yelled out before drawing the sword at his waist and slashing down towards Califia. Califia's face paled, and it was already too late to stop. She could only raise her arms above her head and close her eyes, waiting for the pain to come. Now, you should be nice to my fluff. A sweet young voice came from in front of Califia, causing her to open her eyes. In front of her, a small figure with flaming red hair with her hand raised, stopping the blade in mid-air between two of her fingers. The man looked at Kana with great fear in his eyes. When she started her slaughter of the others, he had used the portal magic in his sword to get away without her noticing. But now she was back. His whole body started shaking, and his grip on the young girl and his arms tightened, causing the young girl to cry out, "Stay back, or I will kill her." The man tried to bring the sword in his hand to the girl's throat, but he found he couldn't move the sword at all. No matter how hard he pulled, it wouldn't budge. SH*T. 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 Let go. You damn monster. Kana's cheeks puffed out. She was really getting sick of being called a monster left and right. Monster this. Monster that. How about you become a woman? With these words, Kana did not hesitate in the slightest and kicked her foot up and right between the man's legs. Crack. The man only got to let out a girlish squeal as he felt his manhood turn inside out forever, making him a woman. The little girl in his arms was dropped to the floor as his eyes rolled into the back of his head. Humph! That will teach you to try to harm my fluff. Kana snorted. She took the sword the man had and looked at it. Oh, Kana, this is a rare find. This sword creates portals allowing you to travel short distances in an instant. Because the portals are invisible to everyone else, it looks as if you teleported away. Lysaerth said excitedly. Having such a sword would be another lifeline for Kana. I do have to warn you that it is not the best to use for fighting with. They easily break if they hit something too hard. Kana heard Lysaerth's words as she struck the floor with the sword, and it shattered into many pieces. Lysaerth was at a loss for words. It seemed anything fragile was not a good thing for Kana to have in her possession. Forget it. It would have broken sooner or later anyway. For now, let's get these kids out of here. Kana gathered the kids with Califia's help and brought them out of the underground area and back to the main streets of Fingalos. There she was able to get the guards to return the kids back to their homes. They wanted to give Kana a reward, but Kana refused it and brought Califia with her as they made their way to the Trident armor shop. As the two walked, the two were surprisingly quiet as they walked down the street. Califia kept her head lowered as she fidgeted with her fingers behind her back. She would sneak peeks at Kana's back with blushed cheeks. These were all the signs of a maiden in love. Sadly, she fell in love with someone who has no idea what the word love even means. Not to mention, she was already a married woman. The two made their way back to the shop, and Kana walked through the doors announcing her return. "Silly, I'm back." Califia's ears also perked up as she walked through the door. "Dad, I'm BA. GUH." She was instantly tackled by a burly man, also known as Freshet. "I'm so glad you are okay." Freshet burst out crying once again as he hugged his daughter tightly in her arms. The poor girl struggled with all her might, gasping for air as her father crushed her body with his big, burly arms. "Dad, let go of me. I can't breathe." Califia yelled out with much effort. Seely smiled, seeing the two reunite, and walked over and patted Kana on the head. "Good job, but you need a bath. You got blood splattered all over you." "I try my best." Kana giggled, feeling proud of herself. "So what happened to all the kidnappers all dead?" Seely asked. "Most are dead. One is unknown, and another turned into a woman." Kana replied. Seely really did not know what to make of Kana's words, but one thing was for sure was that Kana had taken care of the issue. "Where did you bring all the kids?" "For the kids that were there, I brought them all to the guards so they can help get the kids home. They tried to give me a brown bag with rocks in it, but I refused it." Kana did receive a brown bag with rocks in it. Well, she thought they were rocks since she did not even open the bag and only felt the bag. In fact, these weren't rocks, but gold coins. When Kana got the bag, she threw it back at the guard and pulled Califia away with her. She had no idea why anyone would try to give her rocks and say it was a reward for her good deeds. Now, if she was not as hungry as she was after being out all day and not eating, she would have realized what was inside easily, but feeding her hunger was her number one priority. Lyserth didn't stop her either, since gold meant nothing to her. When she wanted something when she was alive, she just took it, so her concept of money was not very good. Kana, we're going back to the guard's post right away. Seely went to pull Kana with her to rush to the guard post to claim the reward, but Califia stood in front of them, blocking their path. Califia took a deep breath and, in almost a yell, said, "Goddess Kana, please take me as your wife." Califia's blushing face looked expectantly at Kana, who just stared back at her with a blank expression. "Sorry, I have a husband." After saying these words, she was forcefully pulled away by Seely, who did not want to get caught up in trying to explain to Califia what a broken heart was all about. If you listen close enough, you could have heard the cracking sounds of a broken heart. Freshet rubbed his temples as he walked over to his daughter, who had turned to stone. He reached his hand out to pat her head, only to jump out of his skin in fright as his daughter shouted out, "I will make Goddess Kana fall in love with me." "Califia, I think it is best if you just find a man." Freshet shrank back after saying these words because of the death glare he received from his daughter. He suddenly felt depressed. "Who will I leave my shop to when I pass?" While all this was going on, Tilia was in the corner of the shop drawing circles on the floor. "Everyone just forgets about me." A while later, Seely walked back through the door with a big smile on her face, carrying a big pouch in her hand. Kana came walking behind her with her head lowered. She was scolded all the way to the guard post for not taking the bag of rocks. When Califia saw Kana, her eyes lit up and ran right over to her. "Goddess Kana, you may not be willing to make me your wife now, but in the future, you never know, so let's be together for the time being. We can start off as friends, then grow to be lovers, and finally we can bind ourselves together for all eternity." Kana raised her hand and showed Califia the black ring on her finger and said, "I am already married and have a handsome husband, so I will need to apologize to you." Kana knew nothing about relationships, but she did know she was married to a handsome man, so that was all that mattered to her. She also did not know why a girl would want to marry her in the first place. All these things were way too far over her head, even if her intelligence was now at 200. Califia felt like the whole world just came crashing down. She looked at Kana, her eyes watery as she asked, "Is it because I am not a man?" Before Kana could even answer, Califia's gaze turned blank, and her eyes opened wide as she walked over to Freshet. "Father, I will be needing a certain part of your bod." "Enough!" Freshet had almost soiled himself. Seeing the look in his daughter's eyes, it was truly frightening. He quickly got up and chopped the back of her neck, knocking her out. "I think you three should leave before she comes to. Take this." Freshet took out 2 boxes. He opened the first one and pulled out a slightly glowing bow. "This here is one of my prized possessions. It may not look like much in appearance, but it is made from magnolia wood, a rare wood that has enhancing effects that will make your arrows sharper and more powerful." Freshet took the bow out of the box and passed it to Seely. "Please take it." Seely's eyes opened wide as she took the bow, handling it, as if it was the most precious treasure in her life. This was because the bow was indeed a precious item. Very few weapons could be found that had enhancing effects. So to actually have one gifted to you was not something one could turn down. It showed just how much Freshet treasured his daughter's life to gift such an item. "Thank you very much. I will be sure to treasure it." Seely carefully stowed it away on her back. "No, thank you for saving my daughter." Freshet smiled and looked at Kana while opening the second box. "This here is something I found while on a trip a while back." Freshet pulled out a pair of armlets and gloves. They are also enchanted, but unfortunately, I could not get them appraised. The quality of these pieces of equipment was beyond anything I have ever found. I hope they will be of good use to you, lass. Kana looked at the gloves and armlets and smiled. She did not hesitate to take them and put them on. They auto-fitted to her body as soon as she put them on, fitting perfectly snug against her skin. "Thank you." "No worries, little lass. I'm glad you like them. Now that I have said my thanks, I will ask that you take your leave." Freshet picked up the unconscious Califia and walked towards the back room. Kana and Seely looked at each other and nodded. Misha, come on. Tilia, who was still in the corner drawing circles, heard her name being called, and tears began to roll down her cheeks. You actually remembered me. Why wouldn't we remember you? We are here because of you, right? Seely smiled faintly and patted Tilia on the head. Who's Misha? Kana asked as she tilted her head to the side, only to have Tilia cry even harder. Kana, leave it, let's go. Seely did not know what to say. Kana's mind worked in weird ways. Sometimes very responsible, while other times she was a goof. But in the end, all these aspects are what made Kana Kana, the cute and lovable dragon girl. Now that we got some money, we can find an inn and grab some food, Seely said, patting the fat pouch on her side. After they left, Califia had woke back up and looked around confused. She wondered why she was suddenly back at her room. You're awake. Where are Goddess Kana and the others? Califia asked. They left. When they will return, I am not sure. But let me tell you, Califia, forget about that weird fantasy about marrying that little girl. I won't allow it. Freshet said sternly. I know, Dad. I will not try to become her wife, but I can still be her friend. I had a dream just now about becoming someone strong who could stand by Goddess Kana's side. So I have decided I want to enroll into the academy. You can if you wish, but you will need to pass the assessment. Freshet felt this was much better than his daughter trying to marry another woman. Maybe she would even find a good husband to bring back home to take over his shop. Really? Then I will start training right away. Califia got up out of bed and grabbed the sword on the wall and rushed out of the room before Freshet could say another word. He smiled and shook his head as he followed after her. If she wanted to become strong, it was a good thing. The three walked down the street towards a nearby inn they had passed by earlier while looking for Califia. It was called the Traveling Inn. When they walked into the room, it was filled with multiple guests. There were men and women of all ages chatting away and eating. The smell of food was beginning to make Kana drool as she stared at other people's dishes. Kana, we will eat soon. Let's secure a room first. Misha, let's go. Kana was now very lively, knowing she was going to get food. When they walked up to the small counter, a chubby woman stood behind it. She had lamb ears and a set of horns on her head. She gave the three girls a bright smile as she asked, What can I do for you? We would like a room with 3 beds, if you have any. If not, a room with 2 beds is fine. Seely answered. She figured if they couldn't get 3 beds, she could just share a bed with Kana. She figured Tilia would like her own bed. Seely, you can just get a room with a large bed. I do not mind sharing. Tilia suddenly spoke up. Seely smiled and nodded to the chubby woman and said, Then just a room with a large bed if you have one. Yep, we got one left. It will be 3 silver for the night. Meals are separate, the chubby woman replied. In this world, money denominations were set by copper, silver, gold, and platinum. Every 100 copper was equal to 1 silver, 100 silver equaled 1 gold, and 10 gold equaled 1 platinum. It was an easy system to remember. The only issue was that if one did not store their money at the Adventurers Guild and get a crystal card from them, they had to carry all the coins around with them. So when Seely pulled out the gold coin, the chubby woman leaned forward and whispered, Dear, down the street on the left-hand side is the Adventurers Guild. You should store your money there and get a crystal card. I will hold your room for you. Ah, yes. Why didn't I think of that? Seely facepalmed. She was so caught up in sleeping in a soft bed for the night that she had forgotten that she could deposit the money at the Adventurers Guild. It's fine. Here's the key to your room. Let the 2 little ones go upstairs to rest and just pay when you get back. The chubby lady smiled warmly and handed Seely the key. It's on the 3rd floor, 1st room on the right. Thank you, Seely said with a smile. She was amazed at how warmly she was being treated. In human areas, they would have just shoved a bunch of silver at you with an attitude if you tried to give them a gold coin. But here, this chubby woman was so nice about it, even reminding her where she can save her money so she wouldn't have to lug it around. Kana was listening to the situation with a frown on her face. For what she was hearing, she was going to have to wait longer to get her food. Seely already sensed Kana's mood turning sour, so she said, Kana, let's drop our things off. You and Misha take a table and order some food. I should be back soon. Kana's eyes immediately lit up and nodded her head. Yeah, let's do it this way. As Seely left to go bank their money, the chubby woman walked Kana and Tilia over to a table in the corner and gave them some menus. My name is Syed. These are the menus, but I do suggest today's special, which is orc meat with bread and vegetable soup. We will take the special. Kana was already drooling, which made Syed chuckle. All right, I will get those dishes right to you. I will bring over our finest ale as well. Syed smiled and walked off. Tilia, who had been sitting there waiting to be asked what she wanted, shed a silent tear. She was once again ignored as if she was invisible. Misha, have you ever had orc meat? Tilia, who was in a daze, was startled when her name was called. Orc meat? No. The cooks in the kitchen only cooked the highest grade meat, but to be honest, it was all bland and had little to no taste. The roast horned rabbit that you and Seely make is very good, though. So I'm excited to try this orc meat out. And me too. I haven't had many different kinds of food since I woke up here, so I hope it tastes good. Kana wanted to try many different kinds of food this world had to offer. After being starved for so long in her past life, to be able to eat whenever she wanted in this life was like a dream come true. The two girls chatted for about 10 minutes. When Saya came back out with a tray in her hand, she walked over to their table and placed a single plate of orc meat down, a single loaf of piping hot bread, a single bowl of vegetable soup, and lastly, a single mug of ale. There you go, dear. I hope you enjoy it. Tilia was about to cry. Why did she only bring one serving? She raised her hand and asked, where is mine? Holy hell, where did you come from? Are you trying to give this old lady a heart attack? Syed almost jumped out of her skin when Tilia spoke up. She was so loud that the entire Tilia started to tear up once again. She rubbed her eyes and sobbingly said, I have been here the entire time. Oh dear, I am so sorry. I did not even realize you were there. I'm sorry, honey. Would you like some food too? Syed asked, her cheeks red with embarrassment. She saw the child when she first came in, but for some reason, she thought this young one left with the older girl. She couldn't help but take another look at Tilia and wonder how she could miss such a cute little girl. Can I have what she's having? Tilia nodded her head and pointed at Kana's plate. Of course, dear. It will be right up. Syed quickly ran off to the back. How does it taste? Tilia asked. She could smell it, and it smelled really good. The smell was making her stomach growl. She had not eaten all day, so she really couldn't wait to sink her teeth into some orc meat. Ishgwood, Kana answered, her mouth full of food. She was happy the portions were so big because each bite was like a burst of flavor in her mouth. The food cooked at the inn was thousands of times tastier than the food she could make. Tilia smiled at Kana's answer and licked her lips. She really couldn't wait to get hers, so she could eat as well. But as she sat there, the food on Kana's plate disappeared, and 30 minutes passed by. Tilia looked around, wondering what was going on, but just figured it was busy, so she did not get up to say anything. By this time, Seely came walking back through the indoors and walked up to the counter where Syed was standing, looking out over the room. Here you go. Also, add on what the two girls ate, and I'll be ordering something as well. Two girls. Syed turned her gaze over to the table. Kana and Tilia were sitting to see a young girl in tears looking back at her with a pleading look and screamed out, Holy hell, I did it again. Sweetie, I will be right back with your meal. Seely was confused by Syed's sudden outburst as she watched the chubby lady run to the back room. Seely was still standing there with her hand stretched out, holding the crystal card. Okay. Seely put away the crystal card and walked to the table and sat down next to Tilia. What happened? Not sure. People keep forgetting Misha's presence. Kana answered as she let out a loud burp while rubbing her stomach. Her actions were not anywhere close to being ladylike. That's strange. Seely turned and looked at Tilia and found nothing to be wrong with her. So she wondered why others would be ignoring her. Her gaze fell onto the ring on Tilia's finger, and something came to mind. Misha, did people ever tell you what the effects of that ring are besides changing your appearance? He told me that it would suppress my scent to a certain degree. Tilia replied. She was still pouting for not getting her food for so long now. She had already been waiting for over an hour. I think the ring is causing you to become almost invisible to those who do not know you well. We'll have to do some tests with it later. Seely rubbed Tilia's head. She could see how depressed Tilia was. Anyone would be depressed if they were being ignored by people or completely forgotten about. Luckily, only 5 minutes passed when Syed came out with Tilia's order. Tilia forced a smile and thanked Syed, who said her meal was on the house. After filling their bellies, the three went up to their room to rest for the night. They figured they would rest tonight before leaving early in the morning after breakfast and procuring some necessities for traveling. Your Majesty, there seems to be movement from both the Illyrian kingdom, Euthia theocracy, and Yuxor's kingdom. The Bodis Empire still seems to be staying quiet. A wolf man who had just come in to make a report said, I see. I did not expect the Empire to make any moves. They normally do not associate with that damn church. My guess is that we will only see the two kingdoms and the theocracy at our borders in a few weeks' time. Any word of the three I told you about? The last message was that they had stopped in at an inn and are resting for the night. Early in the day, one of the little girls destroyed a kidnapping ring that our soldiers were having a hard time apprehending. Out of all the kidnappers, we only found one woman who was knocked out down below alive. The wolf man reported. To think a woman was involved in the kidnapping ring, too. I guess there are all kinds out there. Anyway, what is the word from Stonehammer? The king of Stonehammer wishes to send aid and will help defend against the oncoming attack. They knew that if we fall, they would be next on the list. So they will be sending over 300,000 tropes to support us. That is good. Their king is smart. Let's just hope it will be enough to block the impending attack, or our people will end up at the mercy of those foolish humans. We can only hope, Your Majesty. About the three girls, should we continue following them? Yes, make sure no harm comes to them. I have a feeling those three will be needed in the rough times to come. Maybe I should have left them with more supplies. Inside the room, Seely had Tilia take off her ring once again, revealing her true appearance. This ring is very strange. I do not sense anything different whether you have it on or off. My only guess is that if you're close to someone or that they know about the ring, it will not affect that person. In a way, this is good since it will keep your identity low profile. But Tilia was scared to put the ring back on. What if the same thing happened again? Would she get ignored and left sitting there waiting for her food for hours on end? Just put up with it. When we reach the capital and meet the Beast King, you can take it off. From here, it should only be a few days' travel. Seely felt bad for Tilia, but she knew it was more important to have Tilia stay low-key at this time. Kana was sound asleep already. She had a full belly, and after a tough day, she was very tired. I guess we should sleep as well. Seely smiled and went to work, removing Kana's shoes and armor. She then got ready for better self and laid down. Tilia also did the same. Early morning, dew could be seen covering the grass as the sun's first light stuck its head over the horizon. The three girls had an early breakfast, and Syed made sure Tilia received her breakfast first. Now, they were on a one-stop trip towards the capital. Unfortunately, there were no wagons heading towards the capital this early in the morning. The girls hoped to grab one on the way. Although they could have gotten some scaled horses and a wagon, none of them knew how to drive one. After 3 days and a few kind merchants, Kana and her group finally arrived at the capital, Beastonia. The rural kingdom has stood on the Muna's continent for hundreds of years. It has a long entrenched history on this continent, lasting through many wars. Blood, sweat, and tears were used to create this kingdom when it took the lands from the humans during an uprising. There was actually a time when humans ruled the area that the rural kingdom now stands. During this time, the beastkin were enslaved, and only those who managed to escape to the kingdom of Stonehammer were able to be free from slavery. But at one point, a group of slaves broke free from their captures and worked together with some of the beastkin from Stonehammer to slowly release their enslaved brethren until finally they had enough men to take a few towns. The humans were captured and imprisoned and forced to work as laborers to make weapons and other items for the beastkin. These few towns turned into the makings of the rural kingdom. A leader was named, and this person would go on to be the first king of rural. The expansion of the lands grew rapidly. In almost half a year, they had captured a huge chunk of human territory. They had started from the border of Stone Hammer and went east, consuming all the lands that the humans owned. This conquest lasted for 10 years, until finally, the humans were able to halt the advancement. A treaty was signed, and the Kingdom of Rural finally came into existence. The line is really long. Kana said, pouting slightly. The past few days have been very boring for her. Being stuck in a wagon for days on end was not fun. Her butt and tail hurt from all the bumping around that happens when riding on the rocky dirt roads. At least we are here. I was actually getting sick of being stuck in the wagons. If we were not in such a hurry, we could have leveled up some on our way. Sealy was also a little disappointed that they had seen some decent monster that they could have farmed to get some experience and some materials to sell, but because of the news they kept hearing along the way about how the human territories were knocking at the front door, they did not dare to waste any time and got here as fast as they could. I'm sorry. Tilia lowered her head. She felt guilty since it was her who asked them to escort her to the capital. Don't worry about it, Misha. We made a promise to help you get here and see the King of Rural. Kana said, patting her chest, trying to make Tilia feel better. As the girls were talking amongst themselves, a man in full armor on a scaled horse came running through the gates and right up to them. Ladies, I hate to disturb you, but would you please come with me? The king is expecting you. Kana, Sealy, and Tilia all looked at each other confused, wondering how the king even knew them. They have arrived at the front gate to the capital, Your Majesty. Good. Send a guard out to welcome them. I am glad they did not waste time getting here. Make sure that they are not mistreated. Otherwise, whoever does mistreat them can forget about keeping their head. By your will, Your Majesty. I just hope it is not too late. If I can get that little one to agree to help, it would be for the best. Either way, she will be an honored guest of our rural kingdom. After thinking for a moment, the Beast King continued. Have a kitchen make a large feast with lots of different kinds of meat. The Illyrian Kingdom. A mass of soldiers walked the lands towards the rural kingdom border. At the heads of each brigade were priests in white robes with golden trim. These priests rode on sedans carried by beastkin. The beastkin's legs and hands were shackled and chained together. Around their necks were heavy metal collars chained to the person behind them. Each of these beastkin looked as if they had not eaten for weeks. Hurry up, you filthy beasts! A fat, pudgy man inside the sedan yelled. Next to him were two black and blue cat girls around 18 years of age. They laid on the floor without a stitch of clothing on, dead. Heh, damn beast died. Someone take them away. The beastkin who were carrying the sedan, gritting their teeth. They had heard the cries of their fellow beastkin, but could not do anything for them. Now 2 young ones who did not even have the chance to experience life were now dead. This was a common occurrence through the lands that humans ruled. Beastkin were nothing but slaves to be used for whatever they deemed fit, and even human women were also not very lucky. Those who run the Euthia theocracy have long lost the faith that they once upheld. Now, priests did as they wished throughout the human lands. Their new values rubbed off on the human kings and their officials. Teachings that should have been made to help all were turned to a pathway of the corrupt to mask the crimes behind the words called faith. With the Euthia theocracy's hold over the human rulers of other kingdoms, they extend their power and influence. Euthia, those humans are using your name again to do disgusting things. Say lowered her head, not wanting to look at the screen. These humans have no idea that they will never be able to rise up and reach godhood. In millions of years, not a single human has surpassed the system to become a god. Only the beastkin and other races were able to do so. They have it in their heads that they are superior, but they can't even take control of a continent by themselves. They fear those stronger instead of trying to fight them head on. Only those who are repressed will understand what it means to want to be strong and work hard towards this goal. So repress, my people. Watch how they will rise up, and then one day, you will see a world where peace and harmony reign. Humans call everyone else besides themselves devils and demons. Never once have they ever taken a look at themselves, see the crimes and sins they commit, and repent for it. I guess it is not fair to mark all humans with such criticism, since some humans embrace peace and want nothing but to get along with the other races. That little girl that my little dragon is following is one of such humans that wish to stop the impending war. Sadly, I do not think things will go well. This war is already inevitable. The swords are already drawn. Blood will flow like rivers, and the souls of the dead will rise up towards heaven to stand at the gates of fate. Will they go straight to reincarnation where they can relive a new life and hope for a life without sorrow? Or will they be sent to the fiery pits of repentance to serve out millions of years of damnation, where their souls will slowly burn, causing excru? My eye, why did you do that? Euthia's rant was suddenly cut short when a grape hit her directly in the eye, causing her to roll back and forth on her couch in pain. You were going off on some weird prophetic rampage. It was annoying. Say's voice was filled with annoyance. She hated when Euthia went off on these stupid rants. It seemed to be getting worse by the year, but I was telling the truth. Euthia's right eye was now red, and tears rolled down her cheek as she continued to blink. She pulled a pillow into her embrace and pouted. Say let out a sigh and peeled a grape. Stop pouting. Here, have another grape. My other eye. Damn you, Say. While the goddesses were playing around, Kana and the rest were being warmly welcomed at the rural kingdom castle. Greetings. The one greeting them was not a beastkin, but a lizard man. Hello. Kana took great interest in the lizard man. He towered over her by tens of centimeters, but when he looked at Kana, he had a strange fear well up deep inside him. He couldn't understand why this little girl made him fear her so. It was almost to the point that he was having a hard time keeping his whole body from trembling in fear. Humph! Stupid little lizard. Just because they have a tiny bit of dragon blood, they try to stand tall and proud. Take this and that. Fear this great ant's mental power. It seemed it was not Kana causing the lizard man to feel fear, but Lyserth, who seemed rather bored. Ever since they began traveling with the others, Kana hardly talks to her anymore unless she has a question. Since she couldn't take her anger out on the others, she decided to do it on this poor lizard man who had nothing to do with any of it. A large room where many officials from different beastkin races stood at the side. In the middle on a red carpet were Kana, Seelie, and Tilia. In front of them were 5 steps that led to where the throne was, and on this throne was a man that all 3 of them knew well. He looked down at them and smiled warmly. I'm glad you 2 have come. I have been waiting for you. The tiger man, Kana suddenly yelled out, causing Seelie and Tilia to sweat. Kana had no understanding of monarchs or rulers. Even after all the reminders that Seelie had given for Kana to not speak unless spoken to, she still stood up, put a hand on her hip, and pointed at the big, burly tiger man on the throne. Insolence! A guard yelled out and pulled his sword and was about to point it at Kana when a large hand grabbed his shoulder. When did I ever give you permission to act like this in front of my most important guest? Did you not hear me when I said I have been waiting for them? The big, burly tiger man gripped the guard's shoulder, causing him to whimper. I am sorry, Your Majesty. The guard quickly sheathed his sword and bowed. It's fine. You were just doing your job. But remember, there is a time and place for everything. And understanding those around you is another must. Do you see how they are not kneeling? This means they are honored guests. The burly tiger man patted the guard's shoulder before turning his attention to the girls. Now, I must welcome our esteemed guests. And yes, little lady, it is me. I said we would meet again, and we have. The burly tiger man, the one who sits on top of the beastkin throne, was none other than Klain, the merchant who helped them cross the border. It is good to see you again, Kana said with a smile. She liked Klain because he was nice and helped her out when she needed help. Yes, it is. Now I have an understanding of why you are here. You have come to warn me about the Illyrian kingdom. Am I right, Princess Tilia Illyrian? But I'm sure you must know by now that your message is a tad late. But this does not mean we cannot work together on the issue at hand. I'm sure you have much to say. So if you would remove your ring, please. Klain smiled and patted Tilia on the head. Tilia looked up at Klain and nodded. She reached down and took her ring off, exposing her true appearance. She then got down on her knees and pressed her forehead against the ground. Although I have cast off the Illyrian name, I will ask your highness to please take my old title into consideration and allow me to defect to your country so that I can help try to put a stop to the madness that is going on in the human domains. Klain was very surprised by Tilia's words. He had thought she was only here to warn them and give them some information, but instead, she wanted to defect and go to war against her own people. You do understand that if you defect to this country, you will be seen as a traitor in your homeland. I know this. I have thought long and hard about all of this. I know there are good people and that there are bad people. No matter which race it is, there will always be some bad eggs. But the human race, the race I come from, has gone too far. They are enslaving people of different races and doing unspeakable things. This is also the same for their own people. The greed that is spreading is sinking too deep into society. I would rather fight against my own people and bring peace to this continent and allow every race to understand that we can all live side by side. We may look different, but we are, in truth, the same. So I beg of you to allow me this small request. Tilia poured her heart out about the subject. She had tears in her eyes, and as she talked, one could tell she was crying. She felt pain in her heart. The kindness she has received from beastkin is beyond measure. They live the same as humans. But the humans the race that she is from are turning into devils, all led by those who rule. You are indeed wise for your age. You understand what the world is like right now more than the fools who only care about lining their own pockets. You truly love your people enough to throw everything away and commit treason in order to save your people. You are truly worthy of your title as princess. Please rise, Princess Tilia. Klain knelt down and helped Tilia up. He rubbed her head and then looked at all of his officials. Today is a day that I will be taking in a new daughter. Princess Tilia, from this day, will now be named Tilia Tigeria, the 5th princess of the rural kingdom. All the officials bowed to Tilia. Greetings to the 5th princess. Huh? What? Tilia's head was spinning. She never expected to be suddenly adopted into the royal family of the rural kingdom. You'll get used to it. Tilia, I'm glad you were able to make this long journey, and you met such kind and caring people who were willing to help you along the way. Kana, Seely, what reward would you like? Kana and Seely looked at each other. They really did not need much of anything. They also did not have many plans for the future. Kana, what do you think? Kana was also stumped. She could only think of one thing, and that was food. As long as she had food, she didn't care about anything else. Kana, ask for a house. Lyserth suddenly spoke up. A house. Kana thought for a moment and couldn't understand why she would want a house. She did not plan to settle down anytime soon. Yes, a house. You may not want to settle down, but the capital has a large forest to the east with many monsters you can use to grind levels on and gain materials to sell. Having a place where you can keep your spoils is a good thing. Also, now that I think about it, ask for the right to take the test to the academy. I overheard the armor shop guy and his daughter talking after we left. She mentioned an academy. It will be good for you to join the academy and learn some things. Lyserth knew that she was not the best teacher, and Kana still lacked much knowledge of this world. Lyserth only knew the world when she was alive. After so many years, things may have changed, and although Seely was willing to try to teach Kana things, but she was too soft on Kana, who lost interest in things quickly. Following Lyserth's advice, Kana said, "Then, I wish to have a house and the right to join the academy." Kana also liked the idea of going to the academy. In her past life, she never got the chance to go to school after she was orphaned. She used to watch the kids wearing their uniforms walking to school, talking amongst themselves. There were times when she cursed her own life for being so unfair and cried, wishing she too could be one of those girls. So the idea of going to school was something Kana really wished she could do. Then I will only ask for living expenses to get us through for a while. Seely felt Kana's suggestion was very good. With a little extra money, they could easily get by for a while. You two really do not know how to be greedy. But I like that. So be it. I will give you an estate at the edge of the noble quarters, as well as citizenship for this kingdom. I cannot help you enter the academy. It is a rule that no outside influence is allowed there. And as for living expenses, do not worry. You will be provided with enough for the next few years. Seely, you should also go to the academy and broaden your horizons. Klain agreed to it all. There was no reason not to. This was a good way to keep Kana in the kingdom. This was one of his main goals. Then I thank your majesty for your grace, Seely said, bowing her head. She then pinched Kana's arm. I thank your majesty for your grace, Kana said awkwardly, trying to copy Seely. Good. I am glad. Tonight you can stay in the castle. Tomorrow we will settle your residence. I am sure you three girls would also like to talk as well. For now, I will have someone lead you to your room so you can rest. A grand feast will be held later. Klain waved his hand. A maid came over and bowed to Kana and the rest. This way, please. The room they were brought to was large. For both Kana and Seely, it was the largest room they have ever seen. So big, Kana ran in and looked around at everything. His Majesty said the three of you might stay in the same room tonight. Princess, your room is still being prepared and shall be ready by morning. I will be right outside. If you need anything, just ring the bell. The maid explained, then gave a slight bow before turning around and leaving the room. So this will be our last night as a group of three. Tilia's lips that were curled up into a smile began to quiver before turning into a pout. The days they had spent together were fun for her. She had met people who treated her as family and were willing to help her reach her goal. Now that she has reached her goal, she was reluctant to part with her two new friends. We should sit down and talk about this. Kana, come sit, Seely said as she called Kana over, who was still running around looking at things. Okay. Kana was finding everything very interesting. She walked over and sat down on the fluffy couch, sinking into the cushion, causing her to let out a relaxed sigh. So comfy. Seeing Kana's pleased face made Seely smile. It is at times like these that being together like this makes everything good. Tilia, I know you are sad because we will be parting ways. But remember, we are still going to be friends. So although we may not be together as we have these past days, we will still be able to see each other. And with war around the corner, we may even be fighting alongside each other. Tears welled up in Tilia's eyes, but it's the first time in my life I have had people who cared about my well-being. People who befriended me for me and not my status. Is there no way you two can stay with me? No, Kana said flatly, causing both Seely and Tilia to look at her in shock. Tilia burst into tears with Kana's quick answer. Seely was still trying to figure out why Kana was being so mean. But when she thought about how Kana disliked humans, she wondered if Kana was only being nice this entire time just because she made a promise. But before Seely could ask, Kana continued, Tilia, we are friends, so we can see each other anytime we please. We may not be able to live with you, but that is because Seely and I need to grow stronger. I still need to level up, so one day I can cast cool spells. Plus, I will be going to the academy soon. I want to learn new things and experience new things that I have never had the chance to experience. Each one of us has a path we need to tread. Yours is here in this castle, while Seely and myself have our path outside the castle walls. Kana got up from the couch and walked over to Tilia and gave her a hug. For a human, you are not bad. You care for those around you no matter what race they are. You never treated Seely and me badly. We are friends for life. Sisters of a different blood. Are we not? Seely, Tilia, and even Lyserth were all in a daze. Was this not the little gullible dragon who would do weird things? When did she become a scholar? Although these were the thoughts of the three, Kana was talking from her heart. These were the things she wished to do in her new life. Although she liked Tilia and was her friend, she could not stay by Tilia's side forever. Tilia took a deep breath and wiped her tears. She took in everything Kana just said and found that Kana's words were true. Everyone had their own path, and hers was here in the castle, getting ready to fight against her own homeland to stop the evil that has consumed her people from spreading. Tilia's eyes showed a new resolve. You are right. I am sorry. We all have our own paths. I knew this from the start. I have become spoiled the past few days and have lost sight of what matters. As you said, we are friends. No, we are sisters. From this day forward, I swear that if either of you are in need of help, I will rush to your side. Although I'm human, I hope we can see each other as family. Then to my two little sisters. Seely got up and hugged both Kana and Tilia. The girls laughed and talked until dinner. Kana, Seely, and Tilia all entered a large hall with a long, luxurious table with a white cloth with many kinds of dishes displayed on top of it. On the ceiling hung 3 chandeliers that had magalite stones embedded into the fixture, lighting up the room. At the head of the table, Klain was already sitting and waiting. Next to him, on his right, was 1 empty seat, while on his left, there were 2 empty seats. On the side of the table were many more seats, which were filled with what seemed to be the queen and concubines, along with the princesses and princes of the kingdom. A maid came up to Kana and the rest and bowed her head as she said, "This way, please." Kana was led to the seat on the right of Klain, while Tilia and Seelie sat on his left. This showed just how much Klain valued Kana, Seelie, and Tilia. Tonight, we feast to honor the arrival of our honored guests and to welcome a new member to the royal family. Klain looked at his queen and concubines, who all smiled at him faintly, and then at his sons and daughters, some of which were not looking at him, but at Tilia with cold gazes. This made him frown. Let me make one thing clear before we start eating. Tilia is now my daughter. This makes her my queen's daughter and your sister. If I catch anyone discriminating against her, because she is a human, I will not hesitate to strip you of your nobility and kick you out of this castle. You have no idea how hard it was for her to come here and ask to defect to our kingdom. She has come to aid us in our upcoming battles against her own homeland. So please be mindful of how you treat her. If anyone makes Tilia cry, I will roast them," Kana said as she began stuffing her cheeks with meat. Klain looked over at Kana, who was now busy eating, not caring for the shocked stare she was receiving, and laughed out loud. "Ha ha, right? If anyone makes her cry, Kana here will roast you." Klain's family all gulped. They could see the little girl next to him, who was in the highest seat of honor, was getting special treatment. She was able to threaten the king's own family and was not sentenced to death, which meant that the little girl was not someone they could mess with. All thoughts they had to torment Tilia were quickly squashed. Kana had no idea that she had just kept Tilia from having a horrible time in the castle with her single sentence. After their meal, the girls all got ready for bed and lay down next to each other. Tilia slept in the middle and held hands with both Seelie and Kana. They talked through half the night before falling asleep. If one were to look down from above at the 3 girls sleeping peacefully with smiles on their faces, they would think that these 3 girls of different races were truly of one family. The next morning at the castle gates, "Tilia, send us a message if you need us or if you want to meet up. We are now sisters, so if you feel lonely, just call on us," Seelie said as she hugged Tilia. Take care of yourself. If anyone tries to do anything mean to you, come tell me right away, and I will roast them," Kana said as she also gave Tilia a hug. "You too, be careful. Make sure you stay safe. I hope the oncoming war will stay at the borders and not reach a place where you will need to fight. I will contact you when I have a free day off." Tilia knew from this moment on that she would no longer have any free days until the war was over. Even she may have to go to the front lines and use her healing spells to heal the injured soldiers. War was not something one could run from if it was knocking at your front door. Once it started, there would not be an end until one side gave up. Seelie sighed because she knew it would be a long time until they could meet again. She patted Tilia's head and said goodbye while taking Kana's hand and pulling her along. Kana waved her hand and yelled goodbye as she got into the carriage that was waiting for them. They were now being brought to their new residence, where they would be living from now on. The carriage was spacious and pulled by 2 scaled horses. Unlike the wagons they had ridden when making their way to the capital, this carriage ride was smooth. They could hardly feel the bumps as they made their way down the road. Kana pulled the curtain back and rested her arms on the windowsill as she looked out the window at the scenery passing by. The sky was clear and the sun was shining brightly. A warm breeze blew across Kana's face, making her bangs flutter. She was taking in as much as possible. Her new life was something she had always dreamed about. She was going to live in a house with a warm bed. She was going to be able to go to school. These thoughts alone brought tears to her eyes as she thought about it. These were not tears of sadness, but tears of happiness. She was no longer the poor little girl who had to sleep on the cold streets. She no longer needed to dig through the trash to find even a scrap of food to put something into her stomach. She also no longer needed to hide from bad people or get beaten for stealing something to eat. Her struggles were over, and this new life was her new beginning. She hoped to see as many new places as possible and meet many more people. She also wanted to do many new things and forge her own path in life. Kana let out a sigh and wiped her eyes. Seely, whatever we do from here on out, let's make sure our life is filled with no regrets. Before I die, I want to accomplish everything I wish to accomplish. Let's live a life of no regrets. Seely liked this idea. They had so much time ahead of them to do as they wished. She would accomplish all her goals, and if she still has many years ahead of her after accomplishing everything, she would set more goals. The carriage pulled up to a large gate. The stone walls of the gate was connected to were made of a shiny stone that glittered in the sun. 2 guards stood in front of the gate and bowed as the carriage pulled up. They quickly opened the gates and allowed the carriage to pass through. What laid in front of them was a long road lined with white stone. On the sides were well-trimmed shrubs, and past these shrubs was a green lawn with trees spotted here and there. As they made their way down the road, a large mansion came into view. It was made of red brick and had white columns holding up the overhang to the front entrance. In front of it was a large fountain situated right in the middle of the roundabout. The carriage pulled up, and Kana and Seely were met with a line of maids lined up outside the mansion, waiting for their arrival. They climbed down from the carriage and stood there looking at the grand welcome, somewhat stunned. They both did not expect to have a bunch of maids waiting for them. Kana looked around in surprise. An older woman walked up who wore a maid's uniform and a pair of glasses on her face and bowed to Kana and Seely. Miss Kana, Miss Seely, welcome to your new home. My name is Jansel, and I am the head maid. Myself and the maids behind me are all here to take care of your daily needs, from cleaning the house to cooking. We are at your service. Then we will be in your care, Jansel, as well as the rest of you. We will be counting on you from now. Kana, what are you doing? Seely suddenly yelled out. Seely, look, they are huge. I think she's hiding some melons in her shirt. Kana had already run forward and was grabbing one of the maid's breasts. She was from the cow race and was naturally endowed. When Kana saw them, she completely assumed they were fake and decided to find out. Miss Kana, please don't do that. Kraj, you have been in this forge for almost an entire week. Don't you think you should take a break? Baldwin was starting to worry about Kraj. He had locked himself up and was fully concentrated on forging the sword for his new wife. But as things were going, he would work himself to death. What was worse was that Baldwin was forced to cover the shop every day in Kraj's place. He had no time to spend the day at the host club with all the pretty ladies. Bang! The door to the forge opened up, and Kraj walked out. His clothes that were once white were now blacker than the darkest night. His hair was singed and strewn all over the place. He looked as if he had just crawled out of a fire. You fucking bastard, are you okay? I finished. Now I need to deliver it. Kraj replied, and went to walk towards the shop in trance, only to be stopped by Baldwin. You damn virgin. If you go out like this, you will put your new wife off. You need to clean up some before going. At least hit the bathhouse first. You stink to all hell. Baldwin held his nose, making exaggerated motions with his other hand. Kraj stopped, lifted his arm, and took a sniff. His nose scrunched up, smelling his own stench. Then I will go get cleaned up first. Baldwin let out a sigh of relief and looked around for the sword he had forged. Where is the sword you made? Can I see it? No. One simple word, and Kraj walked out the door heading for the bathhouse. In his right hand, a glimmer could be seen as the light of the street reflected off of it. On Kana's side of things, she was still grabbing the melons of the maid from the cow race. Why are they so squishy? Kana, cut that out. Seely walked over and smacked the top of Kana's head. Kana turned her watery eyes up and looked at Seely pitifully as if she had done nothing wrong, rubbing the new bump that had formed. Seely saw her expression and began thinking she had done something wrong instead. Kana, you can't go around grabbing other people's breasts. Breasts? How are those breasts? They are watermelons. Overly ripe ones since they are squishy, and she is hiding them. Kana just wanted to taste some watermelon. She had only eaten watermelon once in her past life, and it was only a tiny bit that was left on the husk. She had always dreamed of having a watermelon for herself since they were so sweet and good. The maid in question suddenly burst into tears. My breasts are not overly ripe. No one has ever touched them besides you. After sobbingly yelling this out, she took off running into the house. Seeing the poor maid crying, Kana realized she was indeed in the wrong. Ugh! Kana turned to the head maid and bowed her head. I'm sorry. Jinsel smiled and shook her head. Miss Kana, it is fine. Meryl is stronger than you think. She will be over it in no time. I will apologize to her the next time I see her. Kana really did feel bad. She never meant to make anyone cry. I'm sure she will be happy that you care. Let's go in so you can see your new home. Jansel waved her hand, and the door to the mansion was opened. Jansel then led Kana and Seely inside, followed by the other maids. When they walked into was a large hall that had red carpets and a large golden chandelier hanging from the ceiling. On the far wall were 2 sets of stairs with a small balcony on each set that led to the second floor on each side of the mansion. From the main hall, there were 2 hallways, one on each side, leading to the east and west wings of the mansion. Straight ahead between the stairs leading to the second floor was a large glass door where a massive garden could be seen on the other side. This mansion was renovated last night. His Majesty hired over 1,000 people to make sure everything was done by this morning. They even extended the east and west wings and added a south wing as well. The first floor is where you will find the center garden, the kitchen, and the servants' quarters, as well as storage rooms. The second floor is set up into 2 sections for Miss Kana and Miss Seely to live. Everything has been soundproofed and reinforced with high-level defense magic, so you will never be disturbed even if the whole kingdom was blown up. Each area upstairs mirrors the other, so you two only need to pick which side you wish to take as your own. Jansel explained many things about the house, like how it had an automated service call function in each of the rooms upstairs so that they can contact a maid at any time. Then I will take the right side. Kana yelled out as she ran upstairs excitedly to take a look. Seely sighed as she watched Kana disappear. Kana can never sit still. Jansel, I'm sorry about earlier. Kana acts strangely sometimes, especially when it comes to things that she perceives as food. There is no need to apologize. Meryl will not hold anything against Miss Kana. Kana made her way up the stairs and down a short hall that led to a single door. She excitedly opened it up to find a large grand room. Off this grand room were many other doors. Kana walked around the room that had 2 large couches and a large table. This left the rest of the room wide open enough to run around in. The walls were lined with bookshelves filled with many books. Seeing these books, Kana quickly ran over to them and pulled one out. Books were her salvation in her past life. Although the ones she read were in really bad condition, and some even missing a few pages, she still cherished the story she read. She opened the book in her hands and looked at the first page, only to have her face sink as she realized she couldn't read anything on the page. I guess I need to learn to read. I can help you learn. Before you sleep every night, we will begin reading a book, and I will tell you which each symbol stands for. Lyserth could hear the sadness in Kana's voice, so she did not hesitate to offer Kana help. She would need to know how to read anyway when she went to the academy. Thanks, Lyserth. Kana felt a little better knowing she will be able to learn, but she still felt sad that she couldn't read the book already. She placed the book back on the shelf and went to look at the other rooms. There was a massive bedroom, a kitchen, and even a large bathroom with a bathtub big enough to swim around in. I can't believe I will be living here from now on. Instead of sleeping outside, I can sleep on my very own bed. Kana jumped on her bed and sank into the softness, her tail wagging back and forth as she laid there. I hope this is not just some strange dream where I will end up waking up to find myself back in a pile of trash freezing in the cold. Lyserth heard Kana's mumbling and felt confused by her words. She could tell that Kana had gone through something at some point, but she was not sure when Kana had a chance to even see a pile of trash until she went to town. Although she was curious, she figured everyone has their own secrets and didn't ask. Stone Hammer Kingdom. Ah, this is the best. This place is always so relaxing. Baltzwin leaned back in the large bath. Next to him was Krage, who was now soaking after scrubbing his body clean. Just over the wall was the women's bath, and 4 women were standing next to the wall, looking up at the sky above. Do you think he's still there? We haven't heard them leave yet. So he must be. Then what are we waiting for? If we wish to see Courage full on in his birthday suit, we will never get another chance like this. Then let's do it. The 4 women jumped up and grabbed the top of the wall, struggling to get a foothold as they pulled themselves. They climbed to the top of the wall and peeked over to see a figure within the steam. He's there. Hush, he will hear us. I can't see anything. Hey, watch it. You will make me fail. Splash. Ouch, my head. I can see now. Oh my goddess, my eyes. Hee hee. Well, hello there, ladies. Did you kind of get a good look at my amazing dwarven body? Baldswin, who was now all alone in the bath, began flexing his muscles and swinging a certain thing back and forth in front of the 4 women's eyes, all while grinning from ear to ear. I must say you ladies are a feast for the eyes. Since you have come to visit, why don't we? Pervert. Bam. Bam. It's so small. Are you okay? I know dwarf females may look manly sometimes, but you shouldn't come to the men's baths, asked the last woman. Baldswin was feeling dizzy after being hit 3 times in the head by the other 3 women. You know what, fuck you. Who are you calling a female? Baldswin yelled out and ran out of the bath, leaving the last girl there staring at his retreating back confused. How could that be a man when it was so small? Courage, who had left long ago, had no idea what went on in the baths. He was already leaving the city to make his way to where Kana was. He felt a little nervous, as he did not know how Kana would react to his gift. He had spent a lot of time enchanting the sword with many different spells, and even gave a transformation function, so it would shrink down in size and turn into a necklace, so she could easily carry around with her at all times. If she doesn't like it, I guess I could always forge another one. Courage was starting to have second thoughts about the design, but he did not stop himself from continuing forward. As soon as he left the city, he tapped the air and disappeared. Kana, are you asleep? Seely walked into Kana's room and spotted Kana curled up on the bed. She walked over and got up on the bed herself and laid down next to Kana. You must have been tired. I wonder if you even got any sleep last night. Kana sensed something warm near her and rolled over and hugged Seely. Seely smiled and patted Kana's head. I hope you never lose the smile you always have. Sometimes you are naughty, but you are such a kind soul.